Okay. There we go. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to run through what's going on specifically in one particular function here, like this priv select change. Okay, we saw in the last video that when you click a privilege option on that tab or on that form, based on the privilege you selected, it goes out and gets the roles associated for that application privilege. Okay, so we're going to step through the whole process of what's going on there. Okay, so as soon as that happens, you see here what we're doing is we're calling JQuery. We're using the ID in the form, which is called privno. We also have an ID in our form called the hidden application ID. And JQuery, these built-in functions basically look it up in the DOM and get these values for us and give them back to us as variables here in our JavaScript. So now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a JQuery function that says go find the options for the role no and remove everything. Okay, now we're going to use the JQuery function to get JSON, and we're going to run a JSON call. This is the URL that we're going to run. So this is going to map to a struts2 action, right? Okay, and I'm using .html as my suffix rather than .action or something like .do. I kind of like HTML better. So and then of course what we're doing here is constructing a parameter list. So this is going to be $ARUV query.privno equals this, ampersand ARU or eQuery app blah 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 blah. So, and the function that we're going to run internally is going to pass back a list of roles, okay, and then we're going to start appending the select box to that role no, and this is how we're going to build options that are coming back. And basically we're just getting back these app role privs that have the role IDs that we want. Okay, so okay, so that's happening, and let's go take a look at what goes on under the cover. So if we go to struts and look, here's what we're calling in JSON. Okay, and you see here we just want to return the app priv roles list. We don't want everything, we just want that. Okay, because JQuery is a little fussy about what gets returned. We only want the list returned so that it's just the array itself and not the name array kind of thing. It's not a hash map, it's just a list. Okay, so when we get into there, here's our action class. Okay, now like I said, because of how we're doing it here by constructing it this way, we're basically having struts2 create a model for us. So we have this ARUV query model, okay, and in our action class that's what we're using. Okay, so we're checking it here. If we don't have the model, then we're not doing anything. So, and then we're going to get the application ID from the model. We're going to check that. We're going to convert it to a string. We're going to get our privno and convert it to a string, and then we're going to call in to that manager class and say give me all the app priv roles by app ID and privno. Okay, so if we go here now and take a look at that, here's the query we're running. Okay, here's the privno and the application ID that we're plugging in. Okay, and of course we only do it if we have these things. We can run the query without that stuff. Okay, so here we go. We're going to run that. We're going to set our values. Okay, and then we're going to run the query, and we're going to transform these back to a roles priv model, and then we're going to send it back to the page, to JQuery, and then when we get back here, we're going to iterate through these roles and create our select box. So that's in a sense what's going on here. So and like I said, JQuery is kind of fussy, so and a lot of times you're going to have to manually construct these URLs and just paste them into your browser and see what's coming back. Because like I said, if I remember correctly here, sometimes JSON will return something that's like a name, colon, and then an array of values, and I don't think that's what's going on here. I think we're just getting the array. Hence why we're being very specific here in our struts2 configuration as to what is actually getting sent back. So I think if we look here and we go back to our action class, Right, so we're just getting back a list of roles priv. Okay, if we go look at our model, here's what we're getting, and I believe all we're returning here is the priv node, the role node, the priv ID, the role ID, and the role description. Okay, and I think all we're actually using in the select box is the priv node and or the role node and the role ID, and of course we can just go look here and see what we're getting. So I like the pen roles, role ID, role node. Yep, there you go. So that's all we're using to build the select box. Okay, so I think this gives you a pretty good idea of how you can use the JQuery plugin for Struts2, and how you can use the tag libs to do some pretty sophisticated stuff. Of course, this isn't the end all. I mean, you can do a whole lot more with this. You know, basically comes down to how much JavaScript you feel like coding. But the tag libs are really cool, and they really allow you to do a lot less work and get a lot more bang for the buck. To me, the tab panels are worth their weight in gold. I mean, they're just so much easier to deal with than if you were to try to do this the hard way. Because essentially all of this stuff you're coding here in a tag lib, this would all have to be JavaScript. If you actually looked at the JQuery documentation, your entire page would pretty much look like this instead of this. So I think this is certainly a much better way to go. At least it is for me. So anyway, I'm going to zip up the code and make it available on the site, and I'll put a link in a couple of the videos so you know where to find it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See ya.